Formula One has 24 races on circuits like Miami, Jeddah, and Qatar that don't really belong in the sport. There are too many races. The special feeling of Formula One weekend is fading away. They've made a mess of the calendar, and it's almost beyond fixing at this point. We used to have 17 to 19 races in the 2000s. We raced on real circuits, like the Sepang International Circuit, Nürburgring, and Hockenheimring. Circuits that extracted everything out of the cars and the drivers. Every weekend, you felt that something special was possible. There was a lot of time between weekends, and there was less news available. You had to watch to know everything about the season or your favorite driver or team. Between 2010 and 2020, a lot's changed. We went up to 21 races, but we also lost Sepang, Nürburgring, and, at the end of the period, the Hockenheimring. Circuits that were iconic, always interesting, and not only fan favourites, but also driver favourites. Now it's 2025, and the calendar is a mess if you ask me. 24 races, too many street circuits, and a season that stretches over 10 months. To make it even worse, there are also 6 sprint weekends, which makes it a total of 30 races in a season. Absolutely unnecessary for me as a fan, but also for everyone who works in Formula One. But it hasn't always been better in those early years. There have been circuits on the calendar that suck too. We've raced in France at Magny-Cours, a circuit that I liked because of the early F1 games, but I didn't really enjoy a Grand Prix weekend there. It started off quite good. It had good races, but became boring after overtaking became almost impossible. That was hard to attend for fans. It had traffic issues, and poor facilities, well, they didn't help either. Indianapolis 2 always felt a bit slow for me, probably because of the first slow corners. It wasn't really up to F1 standard, and it disappeared in 2007 after an absolute disaster in 2005. A Grand Prix I'll never forget because of that. In 2009, Valencia joined the calendar. In Mark Webber's words, the fastest moving car park on the planet, never exciting and always in the news because of financial issues, political scandals, or corruption, not to mention the low popularity. But we will remember it for this moment. We also got Abu Dhabi as the end-of-season Grand Prix, a mixed-feeling circuit for me. It produced good races, season finales, and because of that, it did contribute to Formula One. But I can't just help feeling that Brazil needs to be in the final race, in my mind at least. But in this period, we also gained circuits: Bahrain, China, Turkey, and Singapore. The last one isn't really that great anymore, but I'll touch on that a little bit later. I doubted Bahrain in the beginning, but now it absolutely deserves a spot on the calendar. So did China and Turkey too. As I said, between 2010 and 2020, a lot has changed. Circuits that joined in the earlier period went away. Luckily, Valencia was one of them. The Korean Grand Prix came on the calendar in 2010 and went away after 2013. Once again, financial problems, a bad location, and no local interest caused all of this. In 2011, we got the Indian Grand Prix. Yet again, financial issues, remote location, and low attendance. In this period, the Nürburgring also disappeared. Once again, financial issues, but not having Michael Schumacher in Formula One, that didn't help them either. I wonder, with the popularity of Formula One nowadays, if they could have stayed longer on the calendar. We've got a new Grand Prix in the USA with the Circuit of the Americas, which is an absolute must-have. The Red Bull Ring came back on the calendar after the old version was removed. Baku became the European Grand Prix. I'm still of two minds about that one. Paul Ricard returned as the new French Grand Prix. I'm glad it's gone now because it was absolutely unnecessary to race there. In 2020 and 2021, we got a different calendar due to a certain virus, which made me quite excited. A shorter calendar in 2020, but also a race at Mugello, Nürburgring, and Istanbul Park. Grand Prix weekends that were exciting to me, and it did spice things up. Many fans hoped they could stay on the calendar, but if we're being realistic, the chances for that were close to zero. Those temporary additions, they disappeared again after the pandemic ended. But in these years, Formula One gained a lot of popularity. Good old Bernie Ecclestone sold the sport he owned for so long to Liberty Media, an American company that wanted to take F1 to the next level. They did do that with some consequences. The sport took the spotlight, growth on social media, a documentary series on Netflix, and one of the best seasons ever in 2021 that all made the sport popular. Very, very popular. While that did a lot of good things, it also brought a lot of bad things. At the moment, it is easier to stay up to date about the sport. Drivers are more accessible, and the fan zones at the Grand Prix weekends, they're like mini festivals. But we also have so much negativity, hate, and fake news, something I, as a fan from back in the day, would rather not see. Social media is a toxic environment. Drivers and fans get attacked there. I've said it before, but Formula One is footballized. Okay, enough about that. The rise in popularity, it also impacted the calendar, and I have a lot to say about that. The promoters of this sport wanted more entertainment and decided to introduce sprint races in 2021. The earlier formats of those races, let's be honest, they were absolute trash. The current one is decent and provides a little bit more on the weekends, but personally, I'd still delete them. Most of the time they predict the outcome on Sunday. It's just an addition I don't like. It puts more pressure on the mechanics, and with 24 races, they already have enough of that. The only thing I like about it is the idea of an end-of-season rookie sprint from 2026 in Abu Dhabi. That's something that does excite me, and I'd love to see more rookies do sprint races. Unfortunately, due to costs, it won't happen. But that's not the only thing they did. They also added more races that add absolutely nothing to Formula One. I've said it in a previous video, and I will say it again. Normal circuits are way better than street circuits. We could easily lose tracks like Jeddah, Miami, and Qatar. I understand that adding street circuits in easily accessible places, it's fantastic for the popularity and the growth of Formula One. I also understand that the American market is huge and that they can grow there. But do we really need 7 street races and 3 American races? Yes, the USA is huge, and 1 Grand Prix there might not be enough, but why on earth do you want to race in Miami or in Las Vegas? I get that those 2 places are popular, but Miami is just Sochi with better weather. It adds nothing besides glamour, celebrities, and absurd prices to the sport. Yes, it did give us Lando Norris his first F1 win, but I'd trade it instantly for the earlier mentioned circuits. People were mad that I said to delete Las Vegas from the calendar, and I stand by that statement. It's a show, not a Grand Prix. Yes, the 2 races we've had there were good, and they were entertaining, but Formula One just doesn't belong there in my opinion. Just give me a proper racetrack and I'm happy. A lot of drivers would agree with me on that. Then the 7 street circuits, 1/3 of the calendar. What are they doing? The cars are not cars, but boats currently. The drivers need to navigate those boats through small streets with zero possibility to overtake besides a straight. Unbelievable, if you ask me. The calendar is also an absolute mess, and to make it even worse, we're getting another street circuit in 2026, the Madrid Grand Prix, instead of Barcelona, a semi-permanent circuit through Madrid. I already dislike it before we've even raced on it. But if you thought that was it, you're wrong. Formula One wants to rotate European Grand Prix weekends. They want this because of the 24 races and the sport's popularity. More races on more continents, and a rotation system allows that. F1 can come closer to certain fans this way. Therefore, Spa of all races gets rotated from 2028 onwards. Why would you rotate a historical Grand Prix like that? A race that's been on the calendar almost since the beginning of Formula One. A fan and driver favorite. I'm so mad about this. I would change the calendar, favor fewer races and bring back the golden oldies. Fewer races that will probably never happen due to the sport's popularity, but bringing back old circuits, that might be possible. But a warning before we start, it will upset some of you. We'll start by removing all sprint races, so we have normal F1 weekends. The season starts in Australia, always a good race, fantastic atmosphere, and the historical value of it. It's enough for me to keep it. China is also a good track. If it's hosted early in the season, we have good chance of rain. Who doesn't like that? Japan at Suzuka is a must-have too. Absolutely amazing track. With the current generation of cars, it's a little bit less exciting, but you can't take that race away. Then the first change occurs. The Bahrain and Saudi Arabian Grand Prix doubleheader, that disappears. Jeddah gets replaced by the Malaysian Grand Prix at Sepang, which takes place after Japan. Sepang is such a good track that deserves a spot on the calendar. The Miami Grand Prix is the 6th race, and it's goodbye to that one. We'll swap it with the Hockenheim Ring, back to a legendary and real racetrack. Then we'll have a triple header with Imola, Monaco and Barcelona. Imola gets replaced by Turkey. Yes, Imola is a historic track, but it's not suited for the current cars. It needs small cars, and Turkey doesn't need that. Both editions in 2020 and 2021, it showed that a race at Istanbul Park would be fantastic. A lot of you will say, but why don't you delete Monaco? Qualifying at the streets of Monaco is always nail-biting, and I don't want to miss that. Barcelona, on the other hand, is not the most exciting race, so let's swap it with Mugello. Mugello showed in 2020 that it can deliver thrilling races, even with modern cars. Next, we have Canada, Austria, the UK, Belgium, and Hungary. All of those Grand Prix can stay on the calendar if you ask me. Canada is a nice track, especially when it rains. The Red Bull Ring is a personal favourite that I've attended several times. Silverstone is just history, and it always delivers good racing. Spa is the absolute best if you ask me. Even with the disappointing edition in 2024 due to a shortened DRS zone, it does have to remain on the calendar. And Hungary delivers great races too, and with the changes they're making, it will only get better. The Dutch Grand Prix at Zandvoort will go away. I like the circuit, but it's not suited for Formula 1. I'd replace it with the Nürburgring or Jerez in Spain. Monza, of course, has to stay. If we ever get Ferrari dominance again, Monza would be an absolute spectacle. Baku is up for debate if you ask me. A lot of fans like it, and I can see why. For now, it can stay on the calendar. Singapore has to go. It's the historic night race, and I've always loved it, but currently it just isn't suited for Formula 1. I used to dream of attending it, but not if we keep these oversized boat-like cars. Austin, or better said, the Circuit of the Americas, is the only track in the USA that belongs on the calendar. As for the last 5 tracks, we'll lose 3 of them if you ask me. Mexico can leave the calendar, it's just no fun. I'd replace it with the Indian Grand Prix. Brazil, of course, has to stay on the calendar, but it needs to be the season-ending Grand Prix. Las Vegas is for casinos, not Formula 1. We could replace it with Fuji in Japan, though that might require a different time slot due to the weather. Qatar is a no-go. It's a fast track and it's challenging for the drivers, but I just don't see why they race there. Let MotoGP race on it, not F1. Finally, we have Abu Dhabi, a circuit that leaves me with mixed feelings. It has produced fantastic season finales, so it can stay on the calendar, but not as the last Grand Prix of the season. There we have it, my dream Formula 1 calendar that will probably never happen. What do you think of it though? Click a video on the screen if you need time to think about it.